could start there. What does conversation mean to you, people? Communicator.
Trading.
Sorry?
Trading.
Trading. To people, connecting, sharing ideas, trading. Let's watch.
Hey! Yes, sir! Hey! Hey!
Ini kaya ako yung tuso. Ini kaya ako yung tuso.
We get there.
Hey! Hey!
Ini kaya ako yung tuso.
Hey! Hey!
Nobela nizo. Nemithi mthini? Angizwi.
Hey!
Uyangizwa mina? Indaba ngiyangizwa. Ngiyakhuluma ngizwa indaba.
Okay, breathe. All right, so what is it that you really like about conversation?
To be here.
To be heard?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You like to be heard?
Yeah.
What does that feel like for you when you're heard? It's very, very interesting. Giving you the attention. Right. Someone else? Yes.
Understanding.
Understanding. What does that mean to you?
Just being able to converse with someone and take in what they're saying to you or what they should be able to take in what you're saying to them.
And what does it feel like to you when someone gets you? Best feeling in the world. Can be watched, be heard, witnessed, seen. Best feeling in the world.
It gives you power and entity, so being heard or allowing you to discuss your thoughts and stuff, it gives you a sense of power. Like people listen to you when you controlling the conversation. And then when you're heard and people can respond and critically comment back to that, it gives you a form of respect that they've listened and they've taken in what you've said and everything. And I think that's what it is. It's an interaction. It's not just a one-sided thing. The people can both give and take from those words. Because a lot of conversation in society, we're listening to respond, we're not listening to understand. So when people can come back at you and say, hey, this is what you said, is that actually what you meant? It just makes you feel like all the fuzzy stuff inside.
So I think, firstly, if you're in a place where you have like a very particular identity, it can help you to kind of identify with other people as well, and that kind of sense of community there. But also, if you're struggling with your own identity, conversation can really help you to develop like who you are as a person, how you identify, and that can happen through conversation as well.
I think conversation also just creates the space in which the people who are a part of it like feel comfortable, because as humans we tend to feel like we don't understand and we find that we are in a safe space and comfortable.
So safety and a safe space is really important.
That's amazing.
Really?
And then? That's spectacular. it's like the best thing that ever happened, right? Like it was just like, it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
By the power bestowed on me, I graduate you.
No? Yeah. Then what happened after that? Yeah. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
Hey.
And don't laugh, it's not funny. No, I mean, it's not that it's important.
Come on, let's acknowledge. Come on, continue.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, carry on. Yeah, and then what happened? Are you okay? Are you okay?
Oh, just listen. Just listen, relax. Okay, that's good. Yes, and more. Oh, it's so beautiful. Relax, you know?
I'm a little bit confused. I mean, first he's saying that it happened, and then he's saying that he's not sure whether it happened, and then I'm just like, what?
Hey, I'm great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was nice.
Yeah, you know,
I thought it was nice.
my parents, you know, it's just motoring. Yeah.
He told me that I
Yeah.
knew it fine.
Yeah.
I understood.
Yeah, I just had a divorce, but it's okay. Everything is great. Yes, yes, I lost my dog too.
So,
Yeah.
what happened?
I lost my dog, but it's fine.
But what happened?
Yeah, you know, it just ran away.
How do you...
Okay. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
It's okay. Relax, relax. Relax.
The other person was connecting with the other person in like a deeper way, and the lifting off of the cloth was kind of that deep conversation, so to say, and then that hug to the silence. That was just like, well, okay, I love that.
The people that were under the cloth had the same type of communication, and then when the lady walked in, also her form of communicating changed. So like she was speaking normally, and then just the whole sound dynamics, and then yeah, that's the main thing.
Like having a deep, meaningful conversation with the person, and then having like just a normal conversation. Like inside the cloth, I feel like the person was like really letting the emotions out and like just getting everything out. But then outside, we just kind of brushed it over, like downplayed it a bit. Yeah.
And I guess that some of us relate to that experience of a very private experience versus the public experience.
So I think I agree with a lot of what King was saying, and I think that the difference was perhaps listening as opposed to actually engaging the person who was sort of being vulnerable. And I think that was the space that was under the cloth when there was a sort of empathy between the two people, rather than more of a one-sided listening and sort of just sort of being there to support the person while they needed to say what they want to say. And I think they're both valuable spaces, but I think that under the cloth just shows a slightly deeper connection.
What did you relate to specifically?
I think I related to knowing what the experience under the cloth was like.
What kind of, I'm going to come to, but what kind of listening, I just want to throw this question out, what kind of listening does it take to be able to have that connection? Because we're talking about being connected, relating, understanding. What's the quality of listening? What does it take?
It's not a case of yeah, you're putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and that's not a simple way of putting it. But it's literally going to where that person is, going with them, and that's true understanding.
From a technical perspective, I was trying to make sense of the body language, of the position of the people. I was not focusing so much on the meaning, but I was trying to work out, okay, let me see what the body language is saying, what the movement is saying. That's what I was trying to look at, the tone of voice. And I was looking more at that rather than trying to make a story out of it.
And what
so I didn't come to a conclusion.
Okay.
So I'm still questioning because I haven't had an interaction. So it's still all my private conversation. I haven't yet connected to that.
I couldn't really relate because I wasn't looking at what they were saying, or I was kind of looking at the acting and the movements, because before we just did this, you spoke about conversation, which is more like the vocal connection we have with people. So I was trying to watch for the actual physical connection they made with the people.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel that they did or didn't? Or how did they express it?
They did it well in some parts and some aspects.
Okay, so you were looking at from that physical expressive way of doing that. Do you think that conversation is only about, because you're kind of alluding to words, and the previous speaker is saying no, actually there's much more going on.
That's what I'm saying.
Are you also saying that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That even though he was still somewhat struggling, he still gave time to also try to listen to that guy and say, you'll be okay, but he still had his own problems. So I wanted to give that kind of respect for listening back to him. Yeah.
And what you're speaking to is that sometimes how complex communication is. That's what we're really talking about. Right. So we've heard that there's empathetic listening. What other kinds of listening? I just want to come back to the listening just for a moment. Sibongile?
For me, it's critical listening. But this term critical, for me, it's also too big again for me to really stretch it out. Especially when I saw that character. When everything was happening, when conversation was happening in the center, he was on the outside. And when I was looking at him, and especially his body language, for me, that was a critical onlooker, right? There is communication, there is conversation. What is this conversation about? Before I get into this conversation, I have to be critical about what is happening. And then even when he went in, he didn't just go in and just get in, but he somehow noticed what was happening there. And I'm sure in his mind, what was happening, he was questioning, he was analyzing, he was inquiring on what is happening in this conversation. And for me, that's being a critical listener.
I think the difference also in terms of listening between the two conversations was sort of empathetic listening and more sympathetic listening, where when you can relate to them on a deeper level versus when you can try to understand what they're going through and support them through that, but not really sort of mirror it or be able to support them on like a same experience sort of level.
So if I'm listening to you sympathetically, what's happening?
Then it's more, I think it's less dispersing, and I think it's more of a one-sided conversation, like I said, and there's the sense of, rather than both of us engaging with, even if it's one person's issue, there's more of, I'm here to support you well when you need to say what you need to say, rather than empathetically sort of conversing about an issue.
We've heard critical listening, empathetic listening, we've heard different qualities of listening and about conversation. So in the context of this today, and in the context of what we've been asked to do with you, to talk about diversity and decoloniality and privilege, how would you describe the conversation in South Africa right now? Yes. I'm just asking you to describe. I'm not asking us to get into debate. Just describe. And it's your description. I'm not asking you to speak on behalf of anybody else but yourself.
I feel like the older generations speak to us and we hear, but when we respond, they don't listen to us. I'm not trying to.
No, it depends. We're going to respect everyone's viewpoint here. Okay? That's the principle that we're going to work on. Because we've heard that safety is important. Right? Although I don't know if I want you to be that comfortable, but I do want you to feel safe. All right? And so your opinions are really important. Okay? Because we are actually working critically and empathetically.
I want South Africa to be the energy that we all felt in this room today. Like not the tension and the anger that we like felt with people like saying things, but that willingness to hear each other out. Yeah, that willingness to hear each other out and to try and understand what everybody else is saying, and that freedom to just stand on a box and say whatever you wanted to say, and the fact that everybody else listened to you, but I don't know anything about you.
Everyone in this room can say, oh, you know what, we need change. This is what change we need. But no one will make that change. You can say, oh, we need to give privilege to everyone else. If you had to change that privilege, you wouldn't. But we need to move to where everyone does a little bit of something instead of saying, oh, we need to do something, and actually change places.
Yeah. Because of our incredibly explicit history, in a way we are forced now to confront these issues of a very multicultural, multilingual, multi-socioeconomic society. And we are actually having to deal with this head on, where other countries that are getting immigrants from everywhere are now suddenly freaking out and not knowing how to handle this. So on a positive note, I feel like when I go out and work in other countries, you know, I'm proud of being South African and the fact that we are fighting, and it's not pretty all the time, but we are figuring it out, and patience to get there on our journey. Yeah, so it's a positive thing.
Instead of waiting to go to a meeting or like an area like this where we discuss about how, you know, people don't get food in every day. If you know that you have spare lunch or whatever that you didn't finish, just give it to someone. Don't wait for you to go and discuss that. No, I saw or she didn't have food, or that person didn't have food, or unemployment rates is whatever. Just do it.
To be woken up to making a difference. Huh? Yeah?
What's wrong with him? Come on. No, hey. I need your help. Hey, hey. 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 Jess, cut it off, man. Hey, hey. What's happening here? Hey, can't you see I'm running here, man? Hey.
Okay, sorry, wait, hi.
What's going on?
I don't know. I'm busy filming for my help, my 100 meter, and help. These guys just fell on top of here, literally here. I mean, if I don't practice now, I might lose this. I might lose the competition. Come on, guys. Hey, I need to win here. That's what I'm saying. And I don't understand these guys. It's just literally boom.
I'm not saying that I don't want to help. I'm just saying that what's wrong?
I don't know what's wrong. Hey.
Sorry, sir. Hi.
This guy keeps on saying Amanda. I don't like.
Okay, sir. Okay, wait. Okay, just calm down. Sorry, sir. Okay, hi. Sir, can you see me? Okay, should we call an ambulance? Should we? Okay.
Let me just take off your shoes.
Okay, done. Okay, I've done it. The ambulance is coming. What else do you need?
Amanda.
Hey. I can't. Okay, listen. I can't do Amanda on my phone. And I feel more comfortable here. So, I mean, just tell me what else you need.
You're telling me that you're more comfortable there. I was there.
Getting to know.
Minding my own business, and then.
Listen.
You called me, lady. What's wrong with you?
Can I help you?
Who are you?
Is it Amanda?
I'm just someone who's got 2 pairs of hands.
Amanda. Oh, 2 pairs.
Can I help you?
2 pairs, my sister.
Sir, what can we do for you?
Can you breathe?
Okay. Can I call someone?
Can you call 911?
There's it.
Thank you.
Okay, done. I told you that's how I'm going to help you.
Would you like to stand, sir? No?
Okay. How do I hold?
I don't know.
Okay.
If he wants to be.
Okay. Can we do that?
Can do it, guys. Yes, that's it.
If not,
Wait, what?
Wait, I'm sending it to the world so people can see.
No, I mean, why are you doing that though?
It's helping.
Helping who?
Okay, you're not helping your room. You're delete. Move, sir. Okay.
No, but I'm asking, helping who?
I'm helping. This is how I'm gonna help. You people.
Social media, you're telling everyone that, hey, look at this guy. Sorry, hi.
No.
Hi.
No.
Hey.
No, you are very aggressive with me.
But you're not this. Okay, oh, cool. I'm sorry for being aggressive. Hi. Okay, hi then, from a distance. Hi.
Do you know other people who need my help?
No,
I want to help. Can I help? How can I help? I mean, well, there's a way that I can help. I don't want to be blocking.
I'm glad that you went that far now, eh? Amanda! Amanda!
people next to you, around you, and just give them some applause.